KNOLSKAPE's latest L&D survey, the average rating for the importance of cultural readiness for the age of AI across global organizations is 7.85 on a scale of 1 to 10, with 75% of responses rating it 7 or higher. However, the average rating for the current state of readiness for the age of AI is notably lower at 5.7, with a standard deviation of 2.1, reflecting a wide variance in satisfaction levels across organizations in their cultural readiness in this day and age of AI. Hello everyone, this is Jason Smith, AVP and Head of Growth for UK, Europe and North America at KNOLSKAPE. And welcome to you all to another episode of The Learning Curve, powered by KNOLSKAPE. And today I have the perfect person to talk about organizational development and transformation in the age of AI, Andrew Wyatt Sames. Andrew is the co-founder of Uptake AI, a consultancy that bridges the gap between humans and artificial intelligence. With over a decade of experience at EY Lane 4 as a senior leader there, Andrew has led global projects in leadership and cultural transformation, successfully managing multidisciplinary teams and fostering lasting organizational impact. His expertise in organizational psychology underpins the ability to help organizations align their people strategies with the opportunities AI presents, ensuring that adoption enhances both innovation and human potential. Andrew, welcome to The Learning Curve. It's great to be with you today.
Very nice to be here. Thank you very much. I'm just going to take a minute to bask in that wonderful introduction. I love hearing about myself in that way. It was beautifully packaged. Thank you very much.
Good. And I've got to say, Andrew, I did a bit of stalking on LinkedIn and your background, as well as EY. If I've got it right, I understand you also did a bit of radio and also were a comedian and stand-up in your time. Is that right? Did I see that?
That is correct. So 10 years in commercial radio. Top of my game, I was at Capital in London.
Wow.
Don't be intimidated. And then 4 years doing stand-up. But I quit stand-up because I didn't realise how lonely it was. I like to work in teams and with people, like now. I'd much rather be talking to you about things to share with an audience than standing on my own on the stage. So I promise I won't try and be funny.
Well, I can only imagine how hard stand-up can be. I've never done it myself, but I can imagine it'd be quite difficult, quite daunting at times. But before we move to the topic of today, Andrew, we like to do at KNOLSKAPE a little bit of a quick rapid fire section for you. If you're ready, I can shoot some questions at you, see your response, and go from there.
Always.
Brilliant. All right. So if you could automate one daily task, maybe that you're not automating already, what would it be?
Getting dressed. I can't be bothered to get dressed. So I love this. So I love the summer and I love working because there is minimal dressing to do. I just can't be bothered to get dressed. So today I'm resplendent in a pair of tracksuit bottoms from my earlier workout, and they'll probably maintain the whole day.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think I'm with you on that one. That if I could, get out of bed and click my fingers and be dressed, I think that would save a lot of time.
Wouldn't it be lovely?
That'd be nice. It'd be really nice. And the second one, your favorite productivity tool or hack at the moment?
Favorite productivity tool is ChatGPT. So I call this the loading the dishwasher technique. So what I like to do is put ChatGPT into voice mode and say to it, like, you are the ghostwriter for X. It's a proposal, it's a blog, it's a piece of content. Could you just ask me like 20 questions about it while I do the dishwasher, and then write the document for me? So that's my sort of ghostwriter / dishwasher cheat, which I'm a big fan of because I've got a busy family life, and so just try and do as much as possible.
I think it's becoming more and more part of people's everyday lives now, ChatGPT. No, love it. And the most surprising use of AI you've come across? I've come across a few, but would love to hear your most surprising use of it.
The most surprising use of AI? My hobby is paragliding, and someone's come up with an app that actually is able to use AI to look at the weather conditions across the UK and then tell you where to go on which day when the weather conditions are right for it. And that just saves, if you just imagine all the paragliders in the UK using this app, that saves so much cognitive effort, hassle, and web traffic and stuff like that. For me, that's a really, really genius use of the technology.
So that's
But I
another.
also do know somebody who's analysed a relative's will using
Oh, wow.
Claude.ai and
Okay.
sort of looked at the gifting patterns in the will to figure out whether they're getting a fair share, which is really morbid and horrible, but also quite ingenious.
Yes. Okay, that's got to be one of the most interesting that I've ever heard as well, in terms of
Mm.
its use. But also learn another thing about you, Andrew. So a paraglider as well. So comedian, radio presenter, and paraglider alongside all the other stuff that you're doing.
Just think of it as like an ongoing midlife crisis, and you'll be in the right sort of territory.
Got you. And next one is what leadership quality that AI can never replace? So what leadership quality would you just never replace in your eyes?
Doesn't care about your growth, so I quite happily, freely demonstrate to people all the time how tools like Copilot, ChatGPT, and other tools can do and simulate incredibly nuanced coaching conversations. But it
Yeah,
doesn't meet you in 2 weeks in a coffee shop and say, "How did you get on? What was it like when you challenged your boss?
yeah.
What's the difference? How have you moved the needle?" And so AI is never really going to be able to do that in a kind of human connected way. It's not going to care about your growth.
I really like that. So the human element of that in terms of really
Mm,
investing in your growth is part of that. And
yeah.
last one, the most exciting AI trend that you're currently following.
I'm all about, like, they keep saying that 2025 is the year of the agent, and I'm all about that. So I've got my eye on Runner H, which is proposing to be an agent platform. I've got my eye on Zapier, got my eye on Copilot and, operator mode with Claude. And there's this big bubbling of agenticness or whatever the word is. I don't know. Do you know the
Yeah.
word?
I don't.
Um,
I'll take your word for it.
there's this big, so when we combine large language models with
Yeah.
machine learning and the ability to do things, 2025 is going to be an absolute roller coaster ride, and I just can't wait to get started.
Nice. Nice. Well, that was the rapid fire, so thanks for that. And shooting those over to you. We're going to get into the meat of the conversation today and
Yeah.
pull on some of your expertise, Andrew. The first thing I've got to ask is what sort of where was the story that brought you to where you are today and founding Uptake AI?
Dead simple, really. So I was a principal consultant for an organization called Lane Forward that was bought by EY in 2021, something like that.
Yeah.
And I got diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's around about the same time. And honestly, I did a lot on my plate and I didn't have the energy to go to
Yeah.
EY. So I was like, right, I'm going to build my own little boutique sort of consultancy. I'm going to specialize in leadership team and cultural development. Here we go. I was really enjoying it, having good fun and everything. And then ChatGPT just smashed into the side of my career like a large language model that had been released for public availability. And
Got you.
I've spent about 1,000 hours using it in the first sort of 3 months, like so to the point of obsession. I was waking
Yeah.
up on Sunday mornings at like 5 a.m. and banging out 5 hours using it just to experiment and explore
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
Um, and I got to the point where I was doing quite big things with it. So I was writing 3-page prompts to do like a non-invasive culture capture of an organization, all sorts of crazy stuff. And I was
Yeah.
generating loads and loads of output. And then I had minor epiphany where I was like, actually use it on my proper actual work to solve my own problems. And then
Got
after that, I had this big epiphany where I realized that I was about 25% more productive using it. And at that point, as an occupational psychologist, I kind of went, so if I'm 25% more productive using it, so will most knowledge workers. So if
yeah.
there's an opportunity here, there's a performance gap to be closed. And then I sort of leaned on my knowledge of culture and went, but it's not just going to be straightforward. You're not just going to give people the tools and they're just going to start using them. So I strongly suspect that there's this incredible performance uplift to be helping organizations with, and they're going to need a lot of support with the culture. So
Yeah.
boom, that's when Uptake AI was born, and that's when I met my business partner at the same time, Lucy, who is an expert in marketing strategy and leadership development. We've got this incredible partnership that was kind of forged in that moment, and we've just been doing the same thing ever since. It's our day job.
Wow. So you're really one of the sort of early adopters, innovators in this space in terms of really getting your hands dirty quite early on and getting stuck in. And that was what sort of bred, that connection to the knowledge worker and the day to day and how it could be utilized in work.
Yeah, yeah. So Bill Gates' dad is famous for saying, "Being right too soon is the same as being wrong," and that was me. So I remember going to a client conversation at a large brewing organisation with 2,600 pubs, saying, "Oh my God, there's this thing called ChatGPT. It's really good. You should use it." And they're like, "Right."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Look, it's like an L&D department in your pocket. Look, here's what it can do. You know, feature, feature, feature." And they've
Yeah.
just kind of sat there having this existential threat, like, "You're putting us under threat. People aren't going to need us anymore. Please, could you leave?"
Yeah.
You know, they didn't quite say it like that, but and you know, and they were like, "What's your product?" I'm like, "I don't know." So in the early
Yeah.
days, there was so much enlightenment and excitement, but no product, no knowledge, no kind of frameworks. You know, so in the early days, you probably would have laughed.
Got you. And we'll touch on a little bit of that, some of the fears that are out there as well as we go
Mm.
through this. And you sort of alluded to there the next question, which was around what inspired you to sort of bridge the gap between humans and artificial intelligence, but I guess your curiosity was the key component of that, and then you saw things out there where it could be connected.
Yeah, definitely. So um, the sort of public discourse about AI, you know, starts with societal change, and you know, people sort of talk
Yeah.
about it taking over jobs and everything. But you know, I live near Milton Keynes in the UK, and there's a museum there where there's a combine harvester, the first one, and it's made out
Yeah.
of oak and it's got steel wheels. When they introduced that combine harvester, the local peasants were up in arms saying it's going to take our jobs. So
Yeah.
this isn't a new thing. This is just technology automating. But there's something about automating knowledge work that scares the
Yeah.
heck out of people, and I acknowledge and embrace that. And the mission that I'm on is, you know, work is going to change, and that's not going to go away. But for those
Yeah.
of us who are you know, are knowledge workers, why not use AI to make work more satisfying, get rid of the donkey work, get closer to our customers, get more strategic, and just like enjoy work more?
Yeah. Yeah. Do
So
some
that's
of the
what
things.
I'm all about.
Yeah, I love that. Do some of the things that actually we really like doing when we come to work and show up and remove some of the noise or the admin side of things that actually gets in the way sometimes
Yeah,
around that.
yeah.
Yeah,
So like, well, I worked at Jaguar Land Rover for a while, about 55 million years ago, and I was in a job which was about 80% process driven. If I'd
yeah,
have had the tools back then, I could have actually cranked out that work in a couple of hours a week, and then been there for my customers. And that's kind of, you know, I sort of take lessons like that into today and say, how do we use these tools to just like get the joy back in work? You know.
yeah. So I'm really curious. So I mean, everything you've described there sort of it certainly attracts me, and I'm sure some of the listeners to really adopt and look at some of AI if they're not using it in their day to day, how they could
Mm.
use it. But in your experience, what are some of the most significant challenges organizations face then when sort of preparing for future work and in the context of AI and yeah, what are some of the challenges that come out that you're seeing?
Okay, right. So right at the top of it, you've got this AI information stream. It's like a massive river flowing past you, and you don't know where to
Mm.
dip your toe in. You know, so if you don't know where to get started, like where do I go to for information or support? It's just too big. It's like trying to drink from a fire hydrant. I'm throwing loads of metaphors in, but you
Yeah,
get the idea. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like where do I get started? And then the next thing that we find is like if we look at the top of house of an organization, like where is the power and where is the interest? So
yeah.
often what we find is the IT function owns the sort of infrastructure and that kind of area, and they sort of own AI. And
Yes.
the signs of that are, yeah, we're going to give out 100 Copilot licenses this year, and we'll see what happens in the next 6 months, and then we'll interview people.
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing that we see. So that's one of the barriers. Is like, where is the locus of control and interest, and how is that being orchestrated? And so, you know, our message to you talk about barriers, I instantly start talking about solutions. But like, you know, the solution to that is like, you know, who in the organization is going to orchestrate the right conversation between HR and IT to make
Yeah.
sure that it is a collaborative effort to think about what tools are we going to use and how we're going to use them. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's often things get stuck at that level. That's something that I'm finding. And then the other thing is like on a daily basis. Uh, on a regular basis, I say to people, I'm an expert in AI, right? Of course I am. Everybody is these days, right? But my credentials are I'm a psychologist and I've spent a couple of thousand hours using the models and at least 1,000 hours researching organizational
Yeah.
impacts. I'm a bit of an expert. As soon as I say to people I'm an AI guy, they tell me all the problems. You know, oh, it's taking all our jobs, it's a load of rubbish. or I used ChatGPT to tell me the Prime Minister, and it said Boris Johnson. And if you're outside of the UK, it's actually not our Prime Minister currently.
Yeah.
And so I've stopped using it because it was inaccurate. So mate, there are so many barriers. I mean, you must have come up against loads
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, I think the first one that you mentioned, speaking with lots of learning development, talent, HR professionals, and
Mm,
you listen to some of the barriers, and it always sits somewhere inside the organization, typically, as you said, IT, and it's sort of that's
yeah,
the thing. And they've just asked us, we've got to try and do some learning around it to get people adopting it. We've invested a lot in Copilot or data lakes and other elements, and we're not seeing the usage or the engagement in it. And I think quite often, like you said, Andrew, it's building the foundations, the mindsets first and foremost of understanding how can this be used as part of our
yeah,
organization? What will it give us? Why is it important to us in terms of helping our own performance or achieving the things that we want to? And like you said in the point before, making work more fun and enjoyable. And I think that's a key component. So yeah, I'd echo some of that.
absolutely. So many senior leadership teams adopt this sort of gorilla tire approach, which is
Yeah.
like, there's the gorilla in a cage. We're going to throw a tire in and see if it plays with it. And then we'll leave it a week. And if it doesn't play with the tire, we'll just take the tire out. And that's what people seem to be doing with, especially Copilot these days. As you say, you need a more deliberate approach.
Yeah. So are you finding in your conversations and the things that are working for you that having that sort of conversation at a more senior level in the organization where you can start to look at it more holistically and systemically as
Mm.
actually what's driving some of that change and overcoming some of those barriers?
Yeah. Because you got to get your senior leadership team on the same page. Because if
Yeah.
there's somebody on your SLT who's like, I'm retiring in 5 years, I don't really need to care about this, that's an amber flag.
Yeah.
Maybe there's somebody on your senior leadership team who says, well, look, I don't want people in my function cheating by using ChatGPT. I want them to do it properly.
Yeah.
All those kind of little knots in the wood, they need to be
Yeah.
addressed and put on the table. And like, dare I say, you need a facilitator who understands AI and its potential and how it works and the cultural implications to facilitate that conversation.
Yeah.
Brilliant if that's the CEO or the head of culture, but we're finding that a lot of SLTs need support in that space.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's moved so fast. I think it's almost debunking some of the myths that have come with that level of speed within it as well. So, yeah, completely hear what you're saying there. And so,
Mm.
envision sort of the leadership evolving then, leadership in its totality evolving in the world of increasing sort of AI and how it's being shaped by AI.
Yeah. Um, well, there's just a few things going on there. So, like, quite a few leaders will be thinking, this feels like an existential threat, and I
Yeah.
get that. I don't know. We're probably not that far away from sort of synthetic supervisors if you think about it. Because if
Yeah.
you combine large language models with machine learning and agents, some of the job of supervisors and managers, orchestrating task allocation, feedback, all that kind of stuff, you can sort
Mm,
of imagine that being automated.
yeah.
So you as a leader then need to be thinking about how do I create the cultural conditions for AI to thrive, for my people to
Mm,
thrive using AI, learning mindset, inclusion, um, psychological safety, that kind of thing. So leaders are going to need to be more on point with that, less task oriented.
yeah.
Um, but also, like there are some essential questions like, let's say I'm running a team and I've got 7 people. 2 people are smashing it by using Copilot or ChatGPT, right? So they're knocking out 30% more stuff. And 2 people are refusing to use it because they're scared of the tools. How
Yeah.
do I manage that with compassion? So how do I do performance management this year? And how do I bring those sluggish adopters on, with compassion without kind of whacking them with a stick? These are really interesting challenges for leaders, but I'm sure you've probably got a couple of your own.
Yeah, well, I think understanding where people are at in their AI journey as well,
Mm,
to your point there, and leaders starting to understand that can really help then move that forward, especially for their teams and level of adoption. And I like what you've shared there around having compassion around where they're at, not beating them up because they're not using it or they're not using it in the right way, but actually saying,
mm.
yeah, how do we create safe spaces for people to test it and have fun and play around with it in a safe environment where we can start to use it?
And then there's certain environments like financial services where there's a sort of paradox, right? So AI is eating financial services because
Yeah.
a lot of the knowledge workers are just sort of kind of analysing and producing stuff. But at the same time, they've got to be on point and can't afford to make mistakes. So how do you
Yeah.
create an environment where there's freedom to experiment, but also you can't make mistakes? So those are some really interesting challenges that leaders are facing.
Yeah.
I'm recovering from senior leadership myself, so I don't envy that task.
Well, you'll have the challenges or seen some of those challenges firsthand, I guess, throughout your career, and that's why I was interested to learn more. And one of the things that we talked about there from an organizational level a little bit and a leadership level, and I'm interested to know as we move into sort of learning and development and personalized learning, given the opportunity now that we have with AI, and it's become a little bit of a blurry landscape, I think, with the amount of AI. I attended the World of Learning where we hosted there, and there's everything's AI now, and it's almost
Yeah.
hard for people to decipher. What's this going to look like? Is it gimmick? Is it real? Is it here to stay? How do you see organizations sort of leveraging for employee development moving forward with AI?
I mean, basically, I've taken my existing pre-AI philosophy and then just updated it a little bit, which is a bit like AI wash. So if you look at me as a business leader, if I can't do something, I either delegate it or I learn how to do it. And often that will be like buy a book, watch a video, just take responsibility for the fact it needs to be learned and just crack on with it. And in
Yeah.
every organization, there's like a nucleus of people who are doing that. People with a learning mindset who see learning as part of the job. We
Mm.
need to just expand that and broaden that out and say to everybody in an organization, we're all learners. So the traditional L&D model of like go and do a training needs analysis, learn what a bunch, find out what a bunch of people need to learn, put on some stuff, do the happy sheets, follow it up, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's going to be less important. And more important is to be saying to people, in our weekly one-to-one, show me what you've learned this week and how you've learned it. So if the
Yes.
tools are, because like ChatGPT is like an L&D department in your pocket, really. But there are some brilliant other products, out there which kind of package it up and deliver the learning to you. But people
Yeah.
just need to be accountable for their own learning. And once you've created the culture where that's true, then you're flying, absolutely flying. So I think that for me, philosophically, is what needs to be the big shift.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was listening to another podcast. I think it must have been the Diary of a CEO or something similar
Mm.
to that. And an organization there was talking about how much they measure failure, and they're almost encouraging that failure piece because with failure becomes the learnings and that's how they were measuring the learnings inside their organization. So thought that was really interesting in the point that you described there.
It's a really good point. Like, so it needs to be in the muscle memory of the organization. So
Yeah.
your learning is just as important as delivering your objectives. But so many organizations aren't
Yeah. And you alluded to one of the barriers earlier, which is this, some people feel this threat to their own role or am I going to be made redundant because of AI and what's going to happen to me as part of that, my own purpose and things like that. So what would you share with listeners listening to this in terms of what you're seeing in terms of these rapid advancements and how it's going to affect jobs and roles inside organizations?
So there's a few truisms floating around, right? There's always a smart aleck who says, "Well, AI is not going to take your job, but somebody who uses it will."
Yeah.
Um, it's probably true, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so I would be reluctant to hire anyone who wasn't open to using tools. It takes about 16 hours to get somebody up to speed with the tools, and so I would hire somebody with the right mindset.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, if you're worried about that, like, why not be surfing the wave and at the sort of at the front or middle of it rather than caught in the froth? So
Yes.
I had a
I like
really
that.
interesting comment from Owen. So we run immersion programs where we take people from sort of zero to ninja on these sort of 2 hour weekly deep dives. And Owen, one of the participants in one of our sessions yesterday, said he had this penny drop moment where he said, "Usually I'm a late adopter with technology, so I'll let everyone else get an iPhone and then I'll get one when all the niggles have been sorted out. Or
Yeah.
I'll get an electric vehicle when they've been there for 10 years." He said, "But I realise with AI, it's not like that because it's never going to
Yeah.
be done. So I know now that I need to kind of get my foot on the ladder and start moving in the right direction. So just do something, have a go, get involved, just use some kind of AI just to build your AI literacy, and then that will help you to not only keep up and stay relevant, but it'll
Mm.
also help you to know if you're ever really likely to be irrelevant. So for example, in fintech, there's a lot of concern about roles there, and that's rather than put your fingers in your ears, why not get involved and figure it out, and then be ready to redeploy or do something else in advance rather than just being given the boot.
I think it's a really important point, and you're almost touching on sort of the growth mindset piece and being open to change and evolving in terms of our roles and our learning. And I think it's so true, isn't it? Even if it was AI or it's something else, if you remain stagnant in what you're doing, entropy catches up, and eventually you will become redundant in what you do because the world now in all areas is moving so fast, isn't it?
Absolutely. So I worked in commercial radio for about 10 years, and in 2005-ish, a big company called Global Radio started lobbying to basically get rid of local radio stations and just build up
Okay.
to a sort of national profile. And I remember at the time thinking, that means that the talent pool is going to shrink. It's going to be harder to thrive. There's going to be fewer jobs. That means money's going to, so I sort of looked at that and went, I think it's time to get out. And that's when I transitioned out and became a work psychologist. It's just that. It's just like, facing into it head on and not being in denial. And that'll save you a lot of pain in the long run, I think.
Yeah. So you touched on it there, and from your own experience, it's just getting involved, getting your hands dirty. And
Mm,
for our listeners out there that might not be so far ahead in their sort of AI journey, if you like, and because it's moving so fast, how would you advise them to stay updated in the rapid advancements within AI? And also, what resources would you recommend, based on your own experience for our listeners
mm.
today?
So the way to get involved is like, so if you think you're a non-AI user, you probably are. If you've got Siri on your phone, if you've got an Alexa, oh, hang on, I'm probably triggered my own. If you've got
Yeah.
it's there in the background, even if you're not using it. So like that's the first barrier over.
Hmm.
Then my strong recommendation to people is just get ChatGPT on your phone, right? And make sure you're not using because there's about 5 million clones and rip-offs. Make sure it's the one by OpenAI. I'm not
Yeah.
affiliated to them, but I really rate it as a tool because it's just effortless to use. Just start playing with it, and also talk to people and understand their reaction to it as well. I mean, I'm really lucky that I stay abreast because once you've sort of nailed your colours to the mast and said, I am an expert in this, or I really care about this area of it, people feed me stuff. So on LinkedIn, everyone's sending me stuff all the time, which is really useful. So I'm almost passive in my upskill.
Yes.
But I would say find the right podcast because it's easy to consume. And what's good about podcasts like this is like there's just so much content and so much volume. Just a weekly listen of half an hour is going to give you that sort of sense of staying abreast because it changes so much.
Yeah. And I'm guessing with all this coming at you now as the sort of the AI expert, so to speak, as you
Mm.
described there, and seeing some of that, I guess you see a lot of the, dare I say it, some of the fodder as well that isn't maybe that great. What's been your experience of that?
Yeah, everybody's got an AI thing, right? So everybody's,
Yeah.
and I'm part of it, right? So my challenge is to cut through the noise a little bit. Um, but the problem manifests differently. So we got approached by a private equity firm who said, so many of the businesses that want us to invest or that we currently invest in are saying we've got a new AI thing and we don't know how to tell if it's got return on investment, it's got legs or not. So
Yeah.
we've started to write these packs, which are like almost like interview packs for boards, which say things like, uh, what is your projected return on investment? How is this
Yeah.
going to add value? How is this going to improve our customer experience? So that's the answer. Like to cut through all the AI wash, push through all the nonsense and say, how is this going to add value? What is the return on investment? Why is your product any different from anyone else? Just asking those really, really basic questions and cutting through all the AI wash that's all out there. That's my advice. Fundamental questions.
Yeah, I think that it's the same with learning and development, right? When we're looking at AI solutions inside our
Mm,
organization, is thinking about what is the impact we're trying to make with this,
yeah.
or is it becoming a nice to have? Are we joining sort of the nice to have sort of fluffy, looks glamorous train, or is this going to actually make a difference for us?
Yeah, yeah. So think about KNOLSKAPE, for example. Like if nine of your competitors go, oh, we're AI powered now, like
Yeah,
you've got to have an answer to that. The best answer is we're using it properly. But I
yeah,
kind of get caught in the froth myself. So I
yeah.
signed up to a music generation thing called UDO, and I spent about 15 hours messing about creating pop songs, AI powered pop songs, and I fooled myself that I was learning about the model. I wasn't. I was
Yeah.
just mucking about. And so, allow yourself a bit of froth and experimentation, but where's the return? Where's the value? What's the purpose of this? Is this going to forward my business goals or is it not? It's just back to those fundamental, ever-present conversations.
Brilliant, brilliant. And looking ahead now, because as we talked about, AI is advancing so rapidly. I know we keep saying it, but
Mm.
what's exciting you about sort of this intersection between AI, leadership, organizational transformation?
I think some of the exciting things. I think you're going to see a lot of smaller businesses grow real fast because they're going to be able to punch above their weight. So
Yeah,
smaller businesses are going to generate bigger financial returns because they can sort of have almost like virtual teams. So that's going to be a really interesting thing to be involved in as a leader. Um, the intersection between AI, leadership, and organizational development. I just think if you've got enlightened head of people, head of IT,
hmm,
who are collaborating in this space, you're just going to see amazing things happen. That for
yeah.
me, that's the absolute crux of it. It's like those people on the same page, collaborating in terms of leadership development, in terms of organizational development, and using AI to deliver the business strategy. You're just going to absolutely smash it.
I think it's going to be one of the biggest differentiators now, isn't it, inside organizations? I know there was that sort of period through the tech boom anyway, where it was no longer sort of the large eat the small. It's now sort of the fast eat the slow, so to speak. And I think that's what it's going to allow these smaller organizations that you described there to really take off and expand their business using AI as part of that.
Absolutely. So I don't want to tell tales or anything, but I'm going to tell tales. So you know, in our business, we will have a meeting with a client at like say 10 o'clock in the morning, and they always get a fully written proposal, fully costed and explained, and a really really good proposal by close of play because
Yeah,
we just can because we're AI powered. And then conversely, I was talking to head of culture at a large organisation. Let's say they got 3,000, no, maybe 30,000 employees, something like that, who
yeah,
said that they were talking to one of the big four, saying, "Look, I've got £1 million to spend this year. I need to get rid of my budget before April. Can you help me?" And the account manager at the nameless big four organisation was like, "Can you put in an email to me so that I can understand it better?" I'm like, "Really?"
yeah,
So little nimble organisations are just going to be able to much more easily and effectively punch above their weight and eat the lunch of the bigger ones. So if
yeah.
you're a bigger organisation and you're a bigger provider, you watch yourself because there's people coming for you.
I agree with you. Completely agree. And as we start to close off today, Andrew, this has been really insightful and leveraging some of
Mm.
your experience and conversations with other organizations as well in this space. If there's one message for our listeners that you would impart your wisdom on in the learning of the age of AI, what would it be?
One message in the age of AI: it's happening. Get started.
Nice. It's happening. Get started. I like
It
that.
ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So get on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
And then the sub message, I suppose, is lead or leave. If you don't want to lead in this age of AI, do something else.
Yeah. I like it. Andrew, thanks so much for such an insightful conversation today. I really enjoyed it. I was looking forward to it, and I've really enjoyed it.
It's an
The
absolute
insight,
pleasure.
yeah, no, it's been brilliant. And if people wanted to sort of find you and follow you, I know you're doing quite a few bits on LinkedIn now. You've got a podcast
Yeah.
coming out as well. Where would they find you as part of that?
LinkedIn's the best portal call. So if you look for Uptake AI, not spelled cleverly, it's just Uptake AI.
Okay.
We did have a clever thing, but my marketing manager Lucy was like, "That is garbage. Get rid of it." I'm like, "I'm really sorry." So that's it. Yeah, just have a rummage on LinkedIn. We regularly post content, and as we said, we've got a podcast as well, which is probably not as good as yours, mate.
No, well, you're going to be the pro. I'll be following that definitely and listening into that. I'm excited to see it, and I'm sure we'll have you back, and vice versa at some stage as well to share wisdoms and knowledge and some of the things that we're seeing out there. But I've
Oh
taken
yes.
a lot from this, so I really appreciate it, and I know our learners will and listeners will as well. So thank you so much. And for those of our listeners that have seen a couple of these, now we've got some more coming out very soon, and we look forward to continuing the conversations around this particular topic. Thanks so much.
Marvelous. Thanks for having me along.